Hey, creepy people, it's your scary godmother Gravity back on the belt with my favorite comic cutie, Gotham Geek Girl. And we just got back from our local theater and we have some things, okay? Some things to
Yep.
say about Blumhouse's newest release called Imaginary, which you can also catch in theaters starting today, March 8th. Oh my goodness, how the time flies. So, Imaginary has already touched the public, so please be wary of spoilers in here. But we could just start with the synopsis, which is as follows. When Jessica moves back into her childhood home with her family, her youngest stepdaughter, Alice, finds a stuffed bear named Chauncey. As Alice's behavior becomes more and more concerning, Jessica intervenes only to realize that Chauncey is much more than the stuffed toy bear she believed him to be. So this is Blumhouse's second film of the year. The first was Night Swim. This one is directed and co-written by Jeff Wadlow. Imaginary is also Wadlow's third film under Blumhouse Productions, previously directing Truth or Dare and Fantasy Island. Both of those films did pretty poorly. So unfortunately, my expectations were kind of low going in. But I don't want to bag too hard on it. So let's just start with the positives. Nadia, what are some positives that you can give me about this one?
For me, I thought even though it's kind of something that's been done before, it still seemed like a creative approach to it. So that I kind of respected. Although I felt like they didn't execute it how I would have liked, I still thought the premise was a fun idea. And for me, I think that the cast is the only thing that it really had working for it. DeWanda Wise, she played Jessica, the main character, who moves back into her childhood home. And I feel like she was honestly the best part. I basically said she held the movie on her shoulders because you actually kind of cared for her and her like family situation, her stepdaughters. And I don't know, I think she was really the only part that stood out to me.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair to say. And, the movie's out now, so the reviews are starting to roll in, and it seems like the public would agree with us. She ate. She acted her ass off in this one. I remember we just saw her in Jurassic World Dominion, and we also saw her a couple years ago in Jordan Peele's reimagining of the Twilight Zone. So, okay, little Scream Queen coming up here. I love to see it. We talked about this, you and I, when we were at the theater yesterday, but obviously DeWanda Wise as Jessica is probably the best part of this film. But I'm also getting a little bit, it smells like maybe could be a diversity hire, which I know that Blumhouse has tried its damnedest after the internet came for them, to make sure to include diverse voices in the many films that they have produced. And granted, I'm happy to see her there, but her performance can't save this film. It did, as much as it could do. But granted, when you put a really weird, confusing, conflicting script in somebody's hands, like there's only so much you could do with your performance to save it, which is kind of what I thought. But also, Pyper Braun, who plays the youngest
Yes,
stepsister, Alice, she acted her little booty off. That girl was good.
she
And
was.
granted, the dialogue was like kind of weird. But
Chauncey, Chauncey.
like, please, I kind of have this feeling. Tell me if you agree with me, but I'm kind of feeling like the writer's room has never heard a child speak before. You know what I mean? Because she's so like
Mature.
advanced. Yeah, like really mature. We have one scene which I liked a lot, with Alice, and she's speaking to her child therapist. And this is some stuff that, you would hear in an adult therapy session, coming to terms with abusive relationships, whether they be real or not. But yeah, I don't think that the writer's room really got the dialogue down with this one. But the actors did what they could,
Yeah.
so that's really all I can say about that.
Yeah, back to your like I guess point like with them like I guess trying to go the diversity route. I'm hoping that people don't use that against the film. Of course, the people that complain about things being woke, that's not the issue with this movie. The issue with this movie is that it was not scary and that the script was all over the place, but she was amazing. She was the only good part of the movie.
Hmm. Yeah. I remember we're sitting in the theater and we're thinking Child's Play, right? We're thinking
Yep.
Chucky. If we're gonna go down the killer doll route, that's got to be the inspiration there. And there was a couple moments in the movie where Gotham Geek Girl looked at each other and we're like, okay, like that's Chucky coming out. It's pretty cool. It definitely took a turn, I want to say, in the second half.
Yes.
I think it would have been a lot scarier and a lot more real and tangible. It wouldn't have to take these crazy writing turns if we just stuck to it as, a movie about a killer teddy bear
Hmm.
who may or may not be real. But then we took this weird twist around the halfway mark that turns this into just a big rip of Insidious. We get real demonic. Nothing is tangible anymore. And the thing that I don't want to say against, but my slight issue with like paranormal and demonic movies is there's no real like law, you know. It's all imaginary. It's all made up. So when they took this turn to take the antagonist Chauncey into this spiritual kind of realm about, the background of what imaginary friends actually are they spirits, are they sprites, are they demons, we just kind of lose all structure with this. And then on top of that, the whole theme of the movie is imaginary, which just adds another level of, okay, there's like no rules. There's no
Yeah.
rules there. They're going to throw us a twist in the third act, and we just have to believe it because we're in this world where like nothing is real and, nothing makes sense. A little wishy washy around the halfway mark all the way to the end.
Yeah, I felt like plot-wise, the plot threads were all over the place. It felt like you said, like halfway through the movie, like it just changed courses. It didn't know what it wanted to do. I I get like the whole trauma aspect. Like they tried to make it seem like, oh, maybe her dad was abusive and like after her mom died and like lost it. But they kind of just dropped the ball on that whole concept, even though they tried to make it. I mean, at this point we could talk spoilers. At this point, at the end of the movie, like they basically addressed that she did it to herself, trying to get in. It's like part of the trivia and part of the what did the little girl call it? The
Like the special game
yeah,
that
what
they
the
were
game?
playing,
I forgot what.
scavenger hunt.
Yeah, like a scavenger hunt. It was like part of it. One of the tasks was like to hurt yourself. So her father was trying to protect her. He never tried to hurt her. But I don't know. Everything just seems like jumpy. Then the whole thing with the old lady was like very strange. And we even brought this up. Like she had to mention like what did she say? Like Trinidad and
Oh yeah, like the Trinidadian version of imaginary
yeah, it
friends.
was weird. I was like, where are they
Mhm.
going with this? Are they trying to like, oh, because she's black, like they're trying to make like a lore, like this has to have some kind of connection. I was like, are they trying to
Mhm.
say this is Santeria or something? But then
Yeah.
it was nothing. Like, and the old lady was just like a nutcase. Like it was just very
Yeah.
wishy washy.
So this character, excuse me real quick while I look up her name, but we
It's
have a
Betty,
another
right? Betty
character.
Buckley,
There we
Gloria.
go. Okay, so
Yeah.
exactly. So we have this quirky character that has some kind of connection to Jessica's past who pops up in the last third of the film, basically just throwing a wrench on it. And personally, I liked her character and I enjoyed her quirkiness. Um, but none of us thought it was necessary sitting in the theater that day. It really just added another layer of why
Confusion.
did this need to happen?
I would have liked if the twist was that she was the one kidnapping the children, being that she was a babysitter. Like that would have made more sense than her
Right.
just becoming obsessed after babysitting a 5-year-old 35 years later, becoming obsessed like, oh, I want to meet the imaginary friends. Like
Yeah, just a little bit out there, unrealistic. I think unrealistic is kind of like the theme for this movie, which is funny because it's called Imaginary, so like nothing is realistic. But in terms of like the script, right? A lot of it was not necessary and just throwing random things in to add something, I guess. But this character, I really liked her. I don't think that she fit though. Um, it was just added confusion, really. And it leaves you asking, like, what's the point? Like, what is the point here? Which is kind of what I thought about a lot of these things. The point that you brought up about uh, this woman who apparently, for whatever reason we're just supposed to believe, has dedicated her entire life to figuring out what the hell this imaginary friend is actually up to. Again, as the viewer, you're like, why does she care so much? Why does she not have her own life? Why does she not have hobbies? Why does she not have children? But again, we're never given that answer. And then relating it to, kind of like hoodoo, voodoo backgrounds, which, as people of color, watching this film kind of ticks a little bit of suspicion in our brains that kind of uh, supports our theory of this being a diversity hire. Um, and so the same reaction that I got to this woman who knows everything about the lore of Chauncey and imaginary friends, I'm asking myself why. I'm asking myself the same thing to the main character, Jessica, and why she's doing all of this for her stepkids. And I don't want to make it sound like, you know, adults can't have connections to youth that aren't biologically theirs. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But Jessica is a Black woman who marries into a white family. And I'm questioning her antics as to why she's doing so much. I can't say it's absolutely the trope, but her character and some of her dialogue, which goes back to what's going on in the writer's room, I don't know, but some of her dialogue and the situations that she gets into in the last third of the movie are just teetering a little bit too close to the Black savior trope to me. A little too much for me to be comfortable. There's a lot of, self-sacrifice for a family that really don't know her that well, is from what it seems like, and don't really understand and appreciate her struggle. And then just like that, like snap of your fingers, everything is fine and dandy once the Black lead basically gives up her entire life to help these children, which isn't a good look, and also further supports our this might be a diversity hire theme, which we never love to see, but to be completely transparent, is something that I wouldn't expect from Blumhouse, but I'm not too surprised based on their previous films that I have seen. In addition to that, I'm so sorry you're sitting next to me watching this movie, Nadia, because the whole time I could not get over Shorty's hair. I really think, and like it's funny and we can laugh about it. We definitely can, but I do think it's a serious topic that should be paid attention to. Like, if we're going to be honest and be, as diverse as we deserve to be and give people opportunities in front of and behind the camera, you got to go all the way. And I will straight up say it, the hair and makeup department on this production should be ashamed of themselves for putting DeWanda Wise, who is beautiful Black woman. She has final girl energy. She was eating all the way to the finish line to be giving her bad hair like this. It just supports our theory.
You said at one point it looked like she had a different wig, right?
It did. Like the last third, like her hairline was different. First I'm like, okay, it's giving like Scream, the choppy bangs. And then there was no bangs and it was just strange hairline. I don't know what was going on. But, if we're going to grow up and cast diverse people and tell stories of diverse people, we definitely need to have people opposite the camera that can support that. Because here, Nadia and I, two women of color, like something doesn't feel right. Something don't look right. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel.
Let's give her the natural hair, and it's like
you can already hear it, right? I can already hear it. But another thing that I would like to say a positive, because I don't want to again bag on this film too hard. I really think that Five Nights at Freddy's convinced Blumhouse to go hard or go home when it comes to their monsters, because the monster was cool. Chauncey in his like final form, when we're in the dreams realm, I almost said dream scenario, when we're in Chauncey's like dreamland, One set design is just on point. That was really cool to see the imaginary realm. Granted, this is the point where we're kind of losing it, but of course the set looked cool, so okay, we'll stay in it for a little bit longer. But in this dream realm, we see Chauncey's like final form, I guess, killer bear kind of thing. He's a lot scarier, and that was fully practical. There's one jump scare earlier that is CG, but in the final third, Chauncey is all practical, and he looks really good. He looks really good. So I'm like, okay, they're taking their notes and deciding to go practical with these things. But what Nadia said, that was really the only thing that was scary. That could, I could leave the theater still thinking about it. A little PG. A little PG.
Absolutely. That was basically how I described it. It felt like if Disney Plus tried to make a live action Coraline, that was literally it. It was completely Disney. It didn't even feel PG-13. It felt PG. I could have watched this at 8 years old, like at a sleepover, and been like, haha, this is funny. There were no moments where I was like, oh shit. Like, I basically, like, my biggest complaint is, like we were saying before, I wish they would have just stuck with the killer doll entity. Like, him roaming around a murderous teddy bear would have been way more scarier to me than everything being like, oh, well, this is just in the imagination. And then later on, it's like a huge giant bear with claws, but it's just like, okay, it disappeared. Like, it just, I don't know. And back to like the scene where the daughter invites a boy neighbor over, and he's a little piece of shit, but the bear, obviously, Chauncey doesn't like him. So it's like messing with his head. But for me, it's kind of like the movie broke its, I don't know, fourth wall. I don't know how to explain it, because he's seeing these things, but that never happened with anyone else. He was always just Chauncey the teddy bear. And then in that world, he was the monster. So I was kind of like, this is annoying, because he wasn't actually hurting anybody. There was no actual death. There was nobody got hurt, essentially, besides like the children that disappeared into this world. And then it was weird because they also like didn't know what they were doing, because she came back and like, I guess, lost her memory, but they never really explained what happened with any of the other children. Are they just stuck in this world? Nobody went looking for these kids and like tried to piece this together. Like the old crazy white lady was just in her house, but she never once thought to like reach out to other missing children. Like it was weird. She dedicated her life to it, but never just waited for Jessica to come back when she's like 40.
Yeah, I guess so. She's like, I'll wait, I'll be patient. And again, it has you leaving the question of like, why? Like, what? I think it's really important to have, it should be easy to pinpoint characters' motivations. There was almost none of that there. A lot of times we're asking ourselves, again, like, why was this the chosen route? Why did these people care so much? Why are we getting all these side characters that don't really fit into the story? I mean, granted, like, they're quirky and they're fun. The neighbor, old babysitter, she was a great character. The boy down the street, he was a really fun time. But they don't fit into the story. And in fact, they even jumble it up a little bit more. Not to be like corny or anything, but I don't think that this movie has enough imagination. It really is just
what I said.
It's just blaming its plot holes and nonsensical things on, well, it's imaginary, so you don't know.
Like even when they're trying to escape the imaginary secret door land, like their escape plan is like, let's imagine. Let's grab everything in the room and make a pretty collage on the wall. Let's grab the candy and the chocolate and the flowers, and we're gonna make a door. I was like, the fuck?
Who told you that would work? Like, who actually told you that was going to be the key out of here? This is when it gets really corny. I was cringing pretty hard at this final third. It was kind of giving me the ending of It, when all the kids band together and they're like, we can defeat Pennywise with the power of friendship. You know what I mean? Like,
family.
Yeah, exactly. Like, bring it back to final. It's the power of love. Like, really.
And they're like, you're my mom now.
Oh my God. Just a little bit on the cringy side. with just my main gripe is just writers. Like, what are you doing in the writers' room? You've never heard a child speak because these children are making conversation that I've never heard an 8-year-old, say before. Um, Unrealistic expectations of Black women, um, characters that don't really fit into the main storyline, and then just like the overarching, nothing really makes sense, but we're taking as much as we can from something like Insidious or The Conjuring that doesn't have tangible walls, when I think that there could have been, because
Mhm.
Killer Teddy Bear sounds pretty cool to me personally. But because nothing is tangible, nothing is. I hate that I'm saying this because the name of the movie is imaginary. So like when I'm saying it out loud, it actually makes sense. But when you watch it, if we were to call it something else, no, it doesn't make sense. Um, it it almost feels like the writer's room thinks that the audience is dumb.
Yep.
And so they have to like hold our hands, especially in that last third when the plot twists are supposed to be coming out. CB is actually Chauncey Bear and he was here the whole time. And surprise, this white woman is actually like a conduit for the spirits who are telling, Jessica to come back here. It's kind of for the horror, and any nerd, indulging person is going to roll their eyes on this
Mhm.
because, if you watch comic book movies, if you watch sci-fi, if you watch horror, you know damn well that you don't need your hand held. You know what I mean? Like viewers are smarter um than to just spoon feed it to us in gibberish that's just, it's your imagination. Don't think too hard about it. It's just your imagination. Um so I would say if I was 8 years old, I might really like this movie. But for adult audiences,
Not at
there's
all.
definitely some entertaining moments. Like, again, I really like Chauncey Bear when he's all big and scary. Performances, there's some really good stuff in there. Production design is high, so it looks great. But writing kind of has me in the theater like, don't patronize us, man. Like we can figure it out. We can figure it out.
And also coming off of Megan, which man, Juan and Kayla Cooper, I was blown with Megan. It
Mhm.
beat all expectations. So not to say that this should have followed that route, but I honestly think that that might have been a formula that could work. I think
Mhm.
just even like say like the points of Megan just like being there and then like something's different or her eyes are shifted. Like the moments in this that were better to me were when the bear was under the bed. Just a teddy bear
Mhm.
being under the bed, like out of nowhere, was creepier than the moments that were supposed to be scary. Like if they would have just went with
Mhm.
that, like when his like smirk, like he'd be like creepy, and then he'd be
Yeah.
frowning or making a face. They should have kept rolling with that, and then just like him being
Mhm.
like, hopping out of the kitchen cabinet or something. Like that would have been scary moments to me than them being like, well, the bear doesn't really exist. He's just an imaginary friend. But when we go to this
Mhm.
new place, there's this crazy psycho bear coming out of the wall. But when I turn off the light, he's gone.
Right. Right. I would have much rather seen the big scary version of Chauncey, in the final third after seeing him as this cute but kind of
Mm-hmm.
menacing. So, okay, I watched Child's Play the other day, kind of to get ready for this, because, Killer Doll,
Mm-hmm.
same realm. And the thing I love about Child's Play, sorry to take it all the way back to 89 or 88 or whatever, but
The good ones.
we had to crawl before we could run, the good ones. What's so amazing about Chucky is that one, the doll is practical the whole time, but it's multiple dolls, right? So in the beginning, Chucky looks really cute, just like straight out the box. And then as the movie progresses, he gets a little eyebrow action. And then maybe 30 minutes later, his eyes are a little bit more sunken in. And then, but you don't really notice it as the film goes on. But then in the last third, Chucky looks completely different and more sinister than the cute little doll that we saw at the beginning of the movie. And I did think that we were going to get a little bit of that because we did have some like eyebrow action. A character would say something, kind of
You're like,
sassy, and it would cut to Chauncey and his eyebrows. Like that is golden. It was golden, but we lost that at the half mark when it decided it was going to be a possession movie.
mhm.
I wish, again, like just like you said, I wish we could have just stop there, because we were in it. I think we were pretty entertained for that first part. But then, of course, the writing just blew us after that.
And not only just like the cheap jump scares, just the fact that the lore like never knew what it wanted to be.
Yeah. That's the issue with, and I don't want to just make it about possession and demonic films, because there's some great ones out there, but the great ones always have structure. So when a character breaks the rules, you can almost expect what would happen after that, or how they could solve it, because there is a set like book or guide of rules. But the whole imaginary thing just kind of throws it out the window.
What to piggyback off that, what I would have liked more too is if like maybe give us a little history and context of the house. Was someone murdered there? Like was this person like, I don't know, like killed as a child and like wanted to make friends? Like, and if they would have went the possession route, I would have appreciated more of a story like that would have made sense. That would also tie into why other children went missing. If other children went missing, was it just anybody that can have an imaginary friend could get chopped up and sent to this secret world? Like,
right. You're right. I now that I'm thinking about it after you brought it up, I would like to see a little bit of a closing of the book on the other children. Because this woman who, again, has dedicated her entire life's work to finding out what the hell is up with Chauncey, she should know what has happened to all these other kids. And then we finally make it to the dream realm. It's just bare and empty. I would have liked, a closing of the book on that, or maybe the therapist.
I was just gonna say the therapist caught on. Maybe she could have started building a file. Like,
right, exactly. And that whole scene was great. I thought the therapist gave a great performance. Maybe could have utilized her a little bit more instead of random, character pop-ins that just kind of fuzzy up the story. But I would have liked to see that. I definitely would have. I think Chauncey, at the end of the day, is a failed attempt at a legacy character. And I do realize that now Blumhouse is on a mission. And viewers, if you notice this, and if you're a fan of Blumhouse, you probably know what I'm talking about. But when we think about our legacy characters, we think of Freddy, Michael, Jason, Pinhead, Leatherface, like the characters that will totally precede and outlive the films that they came from. Those are all from the late 70s to 80s. And it's time that we need some new ones. Megan is a great example. Megan is going to be a character that lives a very, very long time. I'm sure of it. She's already gotten her sequel. Megan's that girl. But we need more legacy characters. And I think that Blumhouse is grabbing that mission, especially with taking on Five Nights at Freddy's and bringing that to life. I think Chauncey was also in that realm. But, if you're going to create a legacy character, I think you have to have a good story behind it in order for it to stick. You can't just have this really cool idea, which is a killer bear. Is it an imaginary friend? Is it not? We don't really know. That's cool. But you can't have the killer bear and have the character all down and not have a story that matches the strength of the character. I'm so sorry, Chauncey. I would have loved better for you. I would have loved better for DeWanda Wise. But I can't say that's what we got. I can't say that's what we got.
Like if they would have really focused more on the storyline, they definitely could have made it like a legacy character, because they could have tied this to generations. They could have tied this to different countries, different, like, I guess how they tried to make that connection. But if they would have actually made like a good story and lore, they could have made, I don't know, like a 1920s somebody like is in a psych ward and has a friend named Chauncey who gets murdered, and then like, I don't know, there's some kind of tie-in where they could have built from that, but it fell flat.
Yeah, it's not all about the character. It's also about the writer's room. I'm very curious to see what the rest of the public has to say about this one, because I know Blumhouse fans really ride for Blumhouse. And they are producing legacy characters that are going to work, like Megan and what's my boy's name? The Grabber from The Black Phone. That one's going to live for a minute. He had his moment. But I'm wondering if the public will stick to Chauncey, especially the younger generation. I do. Okay, would you agree with me on this? I think this is a pretty okay gateway horror for like young kids. What do you think?
That's what I said. This would be good for someone who's never watched a horror movie in their life. Like, that is completely scared to watch anything remotely scary. This is a good introduction where they could be like, "Oh, this isn't bad." like,
Mhm.
like I could watch this with like an 8-year-old cousin and they'll be fine.
Yeah.
They won't have nightmares.
Yeah. No, very little blood.
Remember,
Very little
I
blood.
literally joked in the theater. I was like, "Wait, there's no blood," and then like a little blood seeps out of the door. I was like, "Oh, that's all we got."
Right as she said it, just a little puddle of
A
blood
little
from under the
puddle.
door. And
That
that's
was
really,
it.
besides a little cut on the arm,
Yeah.
that's really all we got. So if you're not a body horror fan, if that's something that bugs you, then I will tell you right now, Imaginary is safe. I do think that Imaginary could be a good gateway horror movie for younger fans, just to dip their toes in, especially because there's so many references to other great horror movies jammed in here. We don't get to pay attention to those too much as adults because we're plagued by how weird the writing is. But like we said, we have lots of odes to Chucky. We have a Shining situation. We have lots of Coraline references to just jump over to another gateway horror. Coraline does it better, but
Yeah.
we can't be picking and choosing like that. But hey, if you have an 8-year-old niece or nephew who's looking to get into the genre and still be in a safe place, go ahead and double feature Five Nights at Freddy's and Imaginary. I think that might do it. There could be, a couple moments in there for you as well. As someone who's seen Child's Play from back in the day, you could, recognize, okay, this is where they got it from. Appreciate the fact that they chose the practical route with Chauncey. Appreciate the performances, but again, I don't think children are going to be picking apart the screenplay like we are,
I
so
was gonna say
it's probably
one
better
more
for
thing.
them. Yeah.
The father, of course, he conveniently is in a band and he goes like on a performance, and I'm like, bro, first off, like, this is not her kids. You guys
Mhm.
just moved into a brand new house, and their psycho ex, we didn't even bring up the mom, their real mom is in like a psych ward or something and she escaped.
Mhm.
So her being around, moving into a new, completely new city, and that's not your wife's kids, you're really gonna go away right now?
Yeah, and it seems like it's okay. It's definitely not weird to have a step-parent child situation where, the two are very close. But this isn't the case here. It really just seems like they're moving in together for the first time,
Mhm.
and the kids are still getting to know their stepmom, who she's Jessica. She's not mom. She's just Jessica. So yeah, definitely kind of weird. Giving this is really 2024. I will say right now, as soon as we find out that the husband is in a band and he's going on tour, I'm like, all right, well, this is definitely taking place in present day. Definitely taking place in present day. I would assume that Jessica is the breadwinner. She's an illustrator. She writes children's books and is heavily awarded. I did like that aspect,
Yeah.
her career and how that ties into the feelings of childlike world building and imagination and like the innocentness of everything. She definitely is like in tune with that because of
Mhm.
her career, which is also a serious and decorated one. um but I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I would, hey, for any horror fans that have young children, or if you have a niece and nephew, I would definitely recommend going to the theater to see it because it could be a fun time for you guys. For anyone else who's just curious, I would recommend waiting till this one hits streaming
Mhm.
and then pressing play. Because again, it still has some fun moments that I wouldn't want you to miss out on. But don't put your expectations too high. Um, it's better than Night Swim. For Blumhouse people out there, it's better than the first one. It's no Megan, but she's almost an okay film. She's almost an okay film. Yes. So, I mean, with that, I think that's everything. If you've seen the film, please comment below. Tell us your opinions. Tell us some things that we might have missed. Again, you can see Imaginary in theaters only starting today, March 8th. And until next time, I've been Zero Gravity with Nadia Martinez, Gotham Geek Girl, and thanks for watching.